the young and the restless spoilers shock. Sharon sat alone in the dimly lit room, her thoughts spiraling downward, caught in the darkest corners of her mind. The silence around her was suffocating, broken only by her shaky breaths and the relentless pounding of her heart. She stared at the bottle of poison in her trembling hands, her fingers white as she gripped it tighter. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she was too numb to feel it. Her mind was consumed by one thing, the overwhelming guilt that had haunted her for what seemed like an eternity. Cassie's ghost had been visiting her frequently, each encounter more vivid than the last. Sharon couldn't shake the image of her daughter's cold, accusing eyes staring into her soul, blaming her for all the wrongs she had done. Heather's face, too, had begun to blend into Cassie's, becoming another specter in Sharon's guilt-ridden nightmares. Heather didn't deserve to die, Sharon thought bitterly. She was the one who deserved punishment. Sharon was certain of it now. She was the true villain of this story, and it was time to pay the price. The poison in her hand promised a release from the torment she had been enduring. Sharon knew the consequences of her actions, knew that taking this path would mean giving up everything, her family, her friends, her life. But in her mind, it was the only way to atone for the unthinkable sins she had committed. The only way to bring an end to the cycle of pain she had caused. Heather should still be alive. Sharon's chest ached at the thought of her. Heather had been so full of life, of promise, and now, all of that had been taken away. Sharon couldn't erase what had happened, couldn't bring Heather back, no matter how much she wished she could. But she could end the suffering. Her own suffering. She could stop the constant, gnawing guilt that tore at her every waking moment. But could she really? Sharon's thoughts flickered, a fleeting moment of doubt. She had people who still loved her, people who depended on her. Nick, her daughter Mariah, her friends. Would they be able to forgive her if she stayed? Would they hate her if she left them like this, without a goodbye, without an explanation? Sharon's gaze fell back on the bottle, and she clenched her jaw. There was no turning back. She had made her choice. Her death would be a small price to pay for the pain she had caused. But as the thought crossed her mind, she couldn't shake the realization that even if she died, Heather would not return. Her death wouldn't undo the past. It wouldn't change a thing for anyone else. It would simply be the end of Sharon. She closed her eyes, her breath trembling as she slowly twisted off the cap of the bottle. The faint smell of the poison hit her nose, and she recoiled for a moment. This was it. Her heart raced in her chest, fear mixing with a strange sense of calm. She tipped the bottle to her lips, hesitating only for a second before she took a long drink, draining the contents in one swift motion. For a moment, there was nothing. Silence. Stillness. Sharon sat back in the chair, her body tense, waiting for the inevitable. And then, slowly, the poison began to work its way through her system. A strange coldness spread through her limbs, followed by a searing pain in her chest. Her vision blurred, and the world around her started to spin. Panic set in as her body reacted violently to the poison. She tried to stand, but her legs gave out beneath her, sending her crashing to the floor. Her muscles seized, her body convulsing as the poison took hold. She could feel the life draining out of her, every breath becoming a struggle. Her mind screamed at her, begging for the pain to stop, but there was no escape. She was too far gone. Sharon's vision darkened as she felt her consciousness slipping away. Her body continued to spasm uncontrollably, the pain unbearable, but her mind was already fading. She was ready to let go. But the world had other plans. The door to the room burst open with a loud crash, and heavy footsteps raced toward her. Sharon couldn't see who it was, but she could hear their frantic voice calling her name, could feel hands grasping at her, shaking her, trying to wake her from the nightmare she had willingly fallen into. Sharon. No, 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 please wake up. Don't do this. It was Nick. His voice was filled with desperation, terror. He shook her again, harder this time, but Sharon was too far gone to respond. She wanted to tell him she was sorry, wanted to tell him she had no other choice, but the words wouldn't come. Her throat was too tight, her lungs refusing to work. Mariah's voice echoed through the room as well, her sobs filling the air as she knelt by her mother's side. Mom, don't leave me. Don't leave us. We can fix this. We can get through this. Please.